Hey, everybody,
Okay.
welcome. Shane and Amy here. Come on in. We are just getting started. Glad that you've chosen to join us on a Friday. Amy, what are you doing over there?
I need just a minute
Okay.
because
Okay.
I'm really trying to do some research here,
Okay.
and it's really like ridiculous. So I'm trying to understand what are people teaching about this whole messaging thing. We get so many questions about, I don't know how to form this question, or I'm beating myself over the head about this question, and I'm trying to understand why it's so confusing. I mean, have you thought about this?
I know, I was that person who was confused. So yes, I have thought about this. Like it's, sometimes when we're having conversations with different people, it's like, man, I can see so clearly. How can I help you see more clearly? And then I remember, like, oh, wait a minute, I was confused too. And a lot of it was because I couldn't make sense of what I was seeing other people saying about how to actually, you know, get your message clear, define your ideal
Right.
client, all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
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 Well, now I know why it's so confusing. Hi, Melissa. Hi, Barry. I think Israel's here too. Hi,
Awesome. Welcome,
guys.
everybody.
So listen to this. Are you ready?
I'm
Okay.
ready. Hit me with it. Hit me.
Here is what the article is. 6 steps to define your key marketing message. Identify your target audience. Duh. Review your
Duh.
review your company goals. Ascertain your primary value and benefits, research competitors' messages, brainstorm keywords with your brand, and finally, number 6, test, test, test. I mean, okay, the one thing that these 6 things have in common is rely on my own analysis of these key areas.
And you know what image came to my mind? Have you seen any of those cheesy old westerns where they have like the little carnival, is in town, and they got like everybody's wanting to, like, hey, come over here and try this little thing and give money away. And there's that one guy who has the spinning wheel, and they blindfold the person and they try to throw and hit the target, like hit the center. That's what I felt like. Like, hope I hit it.
Yes. Hope I hit it. Let me
Hope I
just,
hit it.
if I think hard enough, and if I look at what other people are saying and try to somehow sound the same but different, and then let me try to ascertain exactly what these people want from me. So basically, let me do mind reading
Listen, somebody, you
and
remember
hope and
the
pray.
magic 8 ball? The magic 8 ball? It's
Yes.
like,
Yes. What does it tell me? Let's do that. Let's do that. And then
oh
test,
goodness.
test, test. And what they're saying is, now go to Google and just start testing the keywords. Now go to Facebook and just boost some ads. Okay, by the way, I know everybody is very jealous of my manicure job. I just left the salon, the nail salon of
Okay.
Presley.
So let me just tell you, when you text me and you said you were at the spa with Presley, I was like, oh, she meant school. I meant the school with Presley. No, you meant spa.
I'm in the
Look
spa.
at that. Let me just see the color combo again. All right.
Look,
Shazam. We got
right? A little
glitter. We got glitter
sparkles.
going on. Look at that. How much
Yes.
fun.
How much fun,
So great.
right?
So
But I'm
great.
going to tell you what, if I had used these 6 things to try to figure out who I'm going to serve, there would be no time to spend the entire morning schooling Presley, having a dance party, and going to the spa of Presley. Like that just would not have happened.
Yep.
It just wouldn't have.
Well, here, yeah. Not only would you not have had the time because of the big old vacuum cleaner of sucking all your money out, you would have been able to go and actually pay for something fun like that either.
Exactly. Exactly. And we've got to be careful, Shane. And this is a conversation that I had with you a lot. We have with the clients in the Q&As. We have with prospects every day, even through direct message. We have got to be careful not only to rely on our own instincts to identify our ideal client. Otherwise, all the ideal client will see and hear is a reflection of us, not a reflection of them. And it will literally be like that Charlie Brown teacher, wah, 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 and there'll be no action. There will be no clicks. There will be no phone calls, and there certainly will be no sales.
Yep, that's right. That's right. I remember doing this. Like I did this, right? Like I would go down.
Tell me about what they had you do before we met. This was fun.
So I would go through okay, identify your target audience. I'm like, okay, who do I really want? I want to work with guys who are sitting around executive. Like I would go through the subjectivity thing, right? Like very, topical kind of things. And then review your company goals, like make money, the end, make money. Okay. Then, ascertain your primary value and benefit. This is where, because I had been in business for 20 years. Like I thought I knew some stuff. This is where I wanted to start prescribing to people. This is what you need, right? So I put in there all these different things, or like, all the stuff that they need that nobody cared about other than me, because I was the expert. Like nobody cared about all this kind of stuff. Brainstorm keywords with your brand. This was fun. I loved this part. It was totally irrelevant, but I got a kick out of it because I could come up with cute phrases and funny names, and I felt good, dude. I'm telling you, I'd be high-fiving myself because I was so excited.
Yes.
And nothing would happen. I'd get out and I'd push stuff out, right? And that's where, there's two types of people when you're approaching this work. They're the people who are so risk averse that they're not going to do anything. They just keep going back over this list of stuff. Like, I'm not going to do anything. I'm just going to keep pouring it over. They're so risk averse. They're never going to take any action. They're never going to do what it takes to actually make money. Then there's the person who is so tolerant of risk. They'll just chase whatever, whenever, as fast as they can. And they'll pick up they'll believe they can pick up the pieces, but eventually that luck runs out, right? So it's very important that as you hear us talk through this conversation today, the reason that we are spotlighting so many of the things that we hear that are misconceptions or mistakes that we've made is because we don't want you to be deceived, number one. We don't want you to make the mistakes that we've made, because we want you to actually be able to go and do what it's going to take to make the impact that you want to make and have the time freedom that you want. Yeah.
Yeah. And I really think that at the very core of this conversation is the habit of forming opinions before studying the facts. This will actually keep us from being able to duplicate the ideal client. So the explicit and procedural teachers in the marketplace are giving us these 6 steps. But what it's actually doing is keeping us from being able to duplicate the ideal client on demand. And ultimately, it will kill our efforts to create discretionary time and peace of mind, because although we might be successful, I'm going to tell this story because it still is incredibly relevant to where we are. So recently I had a phone call with a group of people, and they are at $3.5 million a year. Okay. So they're bringing in somewhere around $340,000 a month. And do you know that they have no idea how to duplicate their ideal client on demand? How did they get to 3.5 million? They had money, and that money they were able to just throw at advertising and got lucky. Well, guess what? COVID hit, and they couldn't withstand the wave because they didn't know how to duplicate. So they're throwing money and nobody's responding. And they're like, wait, why? Whereas someone like Melissa Garn made more money in the middle of a pandemic than this $3 million company did. She actually had a bigger increase month over month than they did. Jerry Essery, bigger increase in 2020 than this $3.5 million company. Diane Stricker, bigger increase in 2020 than this. You and I had a bigger increase in 2020 than they did. Now they had an increase, but it wasn't anything like what they were used to because the rules changed. And see, the rules do not dictate duplication. The behaviors of the ideal client do. So even when the rules change, something happens in the economy, the environment changes. Maybe maybe the policies tighten down on a certain platform. That's a rule, not the behaviors of the market. So the behaviors of the market still respond to the language and to the offer, because we are marketing to them. We're not marketing to rules and to budget. Does that make sense?
Totally does. It totally does. You know, so the dependency is not on the rule to make money. The dependency is on the behavior of the ideal client and my and your ability to make a connection with them through that behavior, right? Like, so what I mean is the rules can always change depending on who has power, who has control, what cultural preferences are, all that can change. But the ideal client's behavior is what causes them to step forward, not the rules.
That's right. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
And that's the reason why people say all the time, well, the algorithms are always changing. No, they're not. You don't know how to get to the ideal client, whether the rules change or not. That's the problem.
Right on.
That's a problem. You know, Napoleon Hill, in his book, The Law of Success, which you and I went through last year, I'm going through it again this year, and we're still discussing it. He says no one has the right to form an opinion that is not based either upon which he believes to be facts or upon a reasonable hypothesis. Now, this is what we talk about in phase 2. We've got to go get a reasonable hypothesis. We've got to take the research from phase 1. We've created a hypothesis. That is what we believe this market is going to respond to based on the research. Now we go test it in phase 2 to get a reasonable hypothesis or a proof of concept. Proof of concept is just a scientific term for discovering that something is feasible, that a hypothesis is actually real. You see, he also goes on to say, yet if you will observe yourself carefully, you will catch yourself forming opinions on nothing more than substantiating your desire for a thing to be or not to be. You see, a lot of people will skip this research phase because they believe they already know who their ideal client is. Well, they're this demographic, they're this age group, and this is why they want my service. Okay, well, you've just substantiated your entire profit margin on what you believe to be a thing or not a thing.
What you desire it to be.
Like, exactly.
There's a big difference between, you know, I really want this to be the thing that is the problem for my client. Like,
yes.
If it's not, you're not going to attract them.
Yeah, well, and the reason why we want something to be true is because if it's not true, we're scared we don't know how to fix it.
That's right.
And it's going to force something new from us. And people don't want to change. We want to stay where it's comfortable. And that's what these 6 phases force you to do. When you scale, it's another word for scale is climb. When you're climbing anything, it forces you to slow down and figure out, if I place my foot here, am I going to fall and die? So you have to always be evaluating what you're doing and if it's getting you closer to your own desired outcome. So if we want to always be acquiring this ideal client in ways that are going to give us more time and bring us peace of mind financially, then here are some things that I would challenge you all to consider doing. My favorite book on the planet says, ask and keep asking. Number 1, ask. You see, the 6 most important questions to people that look like your ideal client are the ask. That's the first place we ask. Let's keep asking them. So every 3 to 6 months, I would encourage you to do this exercise again with a whole new group of people.
Okay.
Because
I'm going to stop you right there, because this is huge. When I first started working together with you, I thought, I just got to do this one time and I can forget about it. It's like, no. The 6 most important questions aren't just this one thing you do at a point in time and then forget about, because people are always changing. Things are always changing, right? Like and you addressed this in phase 1, where you're like, but the target is always moving. because the
Yes.
target is always moving, we have to be asking these questions consistently, right?
Right.
And I've watched you, Amy, 3 years in business. I've watched you consistently practice this. And that's why your message keeps getting more refined. When I say your message, the way in which you're communicating to your market through posts, through webinars, through value video, it's the endless depth of drilling down to get more and more and more specific on addressing
Yes.
your target audience. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's people are always so afraid that if they change the language of their message that they're not going to seem credible. Well, if you keep saying that you're a coach and then the next day a consultant and the next day a speaker and the next day a teacher and the next day a mentor and the next day an expert, that's where you lose credibility.
That's right.
Not in how you are communicating what it is you do. You see, I never change system. I never change the desired outcome of time and money. Predictable profits. I never change that.
Yep.
But what I'm doing is I'm constantly evaluating the value that the market is putting both externally. So what are the patterns emerging from these 6 most important questions? And what are the things that you guys are telling me? And what are the questions you're asking me? Always be asking. Always be asking. That is a very powerful practice to put into play. You see, doing this will always acquire the same kind of human that sees the value in the solution that you offer. And you're not going to be relying on referrals for clients, but you'll be able to acquire these people consistently through a predictable channel. Remember, the point is not organic, is you cannot scale in phase 2. You can make more money and you can duplicate to an extent the ideal client, but that should then translate to advertising. Because remember, if you don't have the money to acquire clients through advertising, you do not have a business yet. You are a startup. It doesn't matter how good you are, how many people say you're awesome, and how long you've been doing it. If you don't have actual money to acquire a client through advertising, you don't have a business. So the second thing I would consider, I would have you all consider doing is study. Always be studying the patterns that you see in these 3 key areas. You ready? Number 1, your posts that are getting the most comments and shares. Your posts that are getting the most comments and shares. You can have reactions like thumbs up and heart emoji and I care about you and love it. Okay, you can get all of those, but the algorithm doesn't really care about that. It cares about people that stop and take action. Time spent. So time to type, time to share. Make sense?
It sure does, yeah.
Number 2, the second area to always be studying, what is said over and over on your sales calls, specifically in question number 1. So if you're making up your own sales call, then I can't help you. But if you're following the outline from phase 2, module 1, the first question asks, what is it that's motivating you to take your precious time and talk to me today? That question is powerful and we need to know it. Then down the track of the call, about two-thirds of the way in, you ask them, where do they want to be in 12 months? And the question right after that is, how is this going to impact areas of your life? If you were to achieve this goal you just gave me in 12 months, how will this impact the areas of your life or your business or whatever? Okay. The answer to that question, how is this going to impact the areas of your life? Powerful. It gives us insight into what it would mean for them to achieve this. So the motivation really tells us what is the problem you're here to solve and what is the outcome that you're going to get from solving this problem tells us how valuable this is to them. So it gives you a specific path to understand, okay, so if I solve this for them, this is what they're going to get: more time with their family, more time to travel. It's going to give them peace of mind in how they predict their profits every month. There's going to be no more guessing because they stop relying on referrals. Now, number 3 The third thing that you always need to be studying is the questions that are asked over and over when you are one-to-one with clients. So whether you've got a group thing or not, at some point you're engaging with these people one-to-one for some period of time. And it's typically in those times that they are going to try to extract as much answers from you to these questions that are keeping them from getting what they want. So always be studying. Always be studying your posts that are getting the most comments and shares. Always be studying the patterns from your sales calls, and always be studying the questions that are asked over and over by your ideal client.
So I just think it's important to stop just for a second on the second thing that you said there, focusing on what's said over and over in your sales call. You know, we said before, people don't buy with logic, they buy with emotion. We're not trying to emotionally manipulate people here. That is not the goal. What we're trying to do is to better understand what really is it that is motivating these people and what are their expectations, so that if we can actually help them when we communicate it, they can actually hear it. People hear with emotion, they don't hear with logic, right? So I've got to repeat back to them these words that connect with how they're going to hear, so that they can actually consider my solution. That to me is a big differentiator in the way in which you've built out this sales call from anything else that I've seen, right? Number one, it stops you from talking so much so that you can actually listen. And then it gives you a framework to be able to communicate back so that they can actually hear you, right?
Yeah,
So if you're
exactly.
if you're not using the sales script, start using the sales script. If you're not having sales calls yet, when you get to this place, don't reinvent the wheel. This is the proven method. Use it and document. Write out what you hear to each of these different questions.
Israel says, so every 6 months test the market. Yeah, every 6 months you go back and do the 6 most important questions, not so you can reframe your role, what you do, but so that you can always be evaluating, am I still talking to the highest value of the market?
Good distinction.
You see, that's a very big, people, what people often do is they put something out there. So the explicit teachers say, here's this avatar worksheet, like our ideal client profile. Let's start there. They stop there, and then they say, okay, now put together based on this profile and based on your feelings and your perceived experiences with these people, now create this phrase that says, I help so and so by such and such with my do, right? Okay. So the reality is that they're doing it all off of guesswork. There's no influence from a target market research group. So and then what happens is when that doesn't work, they end up saying, okay, well then maybe I should just call myself a coach. I do this as a coach. Or, okay, now that isn't working, so I'm a consultant. Okay, well that is where you lose credibility. Not in refining the language of the target market where they place value, because we're testing different words on what they're saying. So like my market uses the word scale. Well, scale is starting to atrophy in the marketing efforts. So now I'm using the word duplicate. Right? So I'm not changing that I got this system. I'm not changing that I got 6 phases. I'm not changing that I'm a consultant. I'm not now a marketing expert. Okay. I'm sticking with what I know that I do. I'm just trying to communicate it to the market from a different angle, because that's where they're putting value.
Yeah, that's really good.
Is that clear, Shane?
Yeah, very clear. Very
clear. Because you see, when you study these patterns are what we duplicate. Patterns are what we duplicate. Patterns tell us about what our consumer puts value on, what they need help with, what is not working, both in our marketing messages and also in the throughput model process we have in place. So for me, My throughput process is 6 phases. That
Mm.
studying these patterns tells me, Amy, this is not working for them. They're not getting it. You're not clear. This tool is not working, right? So
Right.
that's what that helped me do over the years, to come to these 6 phases and to have the 6 tools I have in phase 2 and to have the digital templates in phase 4, 5, and 6. I had to spend time privately testing that before I could send it out into the market publicly.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So it's interesting. It's the market and the model. It's the market. We
Mm-hmm.
always got to be listening. Always got to be refining. It's the model. Always got to be
Mm-hmm.
listening. Always got to be refining. It's prospects and it's clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the
Mm-hmm.
angles. I like how you just keep coming back to remind us. It's the angles. I was having a conversation with someone earlier today, actually. Someone who I'm doing some individual coaching with on the system, and
Mm-hmm.
I just said, on the Q&A calls, Amy doesn't just answer the question. Like, it's not like, here's the question, here's the answer. When you answer the question, it is from this way, from this way, from this way, from that way, from that way, from that way. Like, there are angles to this. This is not a linear progression, right? And
Mm-hmm.
that's the frequency just goes to support that. We always have to
Mm-hmm.
be listening and discerning and gathering more facts, because there are different angles to this, and they are
Mm-hmm.
always continuing to evolve. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And
Mhm.
I'm telling you right now, you will, if you will always be studying, you will achieve the outcomes of always acquiring and increasing the amount of people in your model,
Mm.
getting what they want from your model. What this is going to end up doing is buying you more credibility, and it will establish why your prices are higher without question from the marketplace.
Right.
You see, you want to eliminate the question in the marketplace of what else costs this much,
Mm-hmm.
right?
So
When
true.
they're asking that question, they don't see value.
Mm-mm.
You sound like everybody else. You have not differentiated
Yep.
yourself.
Yep.
And so spending time is going to help you get better and better and better at differentiating yourself. The number 3 reason why businesses go out of business is because they don't know how to differentiate. They don't know how to be red pants in the sea of khaki.
Yeah.
They don't know how to do that. This is how you do it, is
Yeah.
always be asking, always be studying. The third thing and final thing that we always need to be doing is going. We always need to be going to the ideal client through marketing channels, through sales calls, and in person during the delivery of the service. This will help us keep achieving more and more of the same kind of person at the same price point, and then they will get their desired outcome from you.
Yeah.
I mean, here is the reality, is this is why I don't have a sales team, because right now I am still in the stages of saying online through automation, where is my market putting the most value? I'm not going to outsource those important conversations to just anybody. I need people that I can trust that are going to be listening like me, which means I got to train them. And right now, I don't want to. I
Mm-hmm.
do it, right? I control my marketing. Now, I have only this year ever given control to 2 other people for my marketing efforts. And I'm scaling using the help of agency, which has taken me 7 years to identify exactly what I wanted in an agency. Okay. Like, not just anybody is getting a blank check. You know what I mean? Because that's what happens in the marketing process. So the reality is that I want you to stop and think about this, okay? Because so many of you are talking to me on Q&A calls and in private from this place of, you have substantiated the reason that people are not going to answer you, or the reason that these 6 questions are not going to be responded to. Okay? So I want you to stop and think about this. Who here in Ascend, out of this group, who here would completely reject and cuss somebody out and then go post all over social media how terrible they are if somebody came to you and said, hey, I see how awesome you are and I need your help. Would you answer these 6 questions for me? Who here would cuss someone out if they asked them that? But so many of you are substantiating the outcome of asking this question before you've ever gone and asked it. I mean, I used to do the same thing. I used to judge the response before I had a response because I didn't want to go. I didn't want to feel the rejection. I didn't want people, I was concerned about what people would think of me. All right. These are the things that kept me substantiating the outcome and making decisions off of opinion and not fact. Right. Or who here, if someone came to you and said, hey, I have demonstrated expertise in area X, and I see that you might need some help with that. Would you like to hop on a phone call? How many of you would like go and block them and start sending messages to people or posting all over social media? Don't answer this person. They just want to sell you stuff. How many of you would do that? None of you.
No.
No. And your market is like you. Okay. So remember that this ideal client is actually you. Just always remember that you're just a few laps ahead of them. I mean, honestly, or how many of you would say, I don't have time. If somebody approached you and said, hey, I see the impact you're making on other people's lives, and I want to learn more about what you're doing. I might want to follow in this path. Would you be willing to answer some questions for me? How many of you say, no, I'm so sorry. I'm just too above that to help you? No, you guys are heart-led people. You want to help people. Every single one of you, it doesn't matter what the product is or how you're delivering the model, every single one of you are heart-led people. Then the question to you is, why do you then make opinions about the people you're going to serve from answers that have yet to be given?
I know why. I know why I did.
Me too. I mean, I know why I did, but this is, I'm trying to, it's important that we understand and be able to answer that question so we can do the opposite of that behavior.
Right on.
Right. You have a powerful exercise, Weakness Mountain, man. And it really does like laser in, target in this question. So then when you see yourself behaving that way, you now know why, and you can make a different decision, right?
That's right. That's exactly right. So good. Yeah. That's because, for me, I just, I had this tendency to let that fear of what other people think about me override me going, right? Oh my gosh, I'm not as talented as this person, or, what, well, then the snowball, right? Here's the deal. People were not even thinking about me in the way in which I was trying to make them think about me. But yet me forcing on them those thoughts, that was what really prevented me from going and helping. Yeah.
Yes. So, yeah, exactly. And I'm telling you right now, go ahead, Shane.
Yeah. Just in looking at these 3 things, the asking, the studying, and the going. I was just thinking, if you go without asking, you're totally guessing. You just go. Like, I'm not asking, you're totally guessing. If you ask without going, then you're assuming. Right?
Wow. Yes.
Like, oh, these people are not going to do this and they're not going to do that. Like, that's a big old assumption. But if you study without going or asking, now you're prescribing. Well, this is what these people need. They just don't know it. That's why, this is, if they would just do this better, then now that would shape out, and then I would be able to help them. Right. So the asking, the studying, and the going are all connected. You can't just cherry pick these things and say, well, I'm not very good at that one. I say, that they are interconnected. The asking, the studying, and the going, and they are in a constant rhythm. Yeah.
Well, and the prescribing comes out consistently when you say, well, my ideal client didn't pay me what I wanted, so I don't want to duplicate that person.
Yeah.
Them paying you what you wanted is what you told them.
Right.
The price is your responsibility. And if you will compromise, they will let you. If you don't have a conviction in the outcomes that you get people and you stand your ground for that pricing, people will let you bring it down, bring it down, bring it down, bring it down until they're ready to say yes.
Yes.
And that's your problem.
Worst question someone ever taught me in a sales conversation was to ask, what's your budget?
Your budget. Oh my goodness gracious. Mary Mother, please stop asking that question. That does not do anything in your market's mind except be like, oh, okay, so they're up for sale.
It reinforces the negative, right?
Yep. Oh, I see. We're in China Street. We're in Chinatown in New York. So I could get that bag for less than what the tag says.
Hang on, I got a bag in the back. Let me go get that.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. And if you want to be the bag in the back, go ahead. Ask them what their budget is.
Want to be the bag in the back?
No. So, as we're wrapping this up, if you will be asking, studying, and going, and treat others the same way you want to be treated in that process, which is really, really genuine, authentic interest, and acknowledge the good work they are doing. And then simply explain up front, hey, this is why I'm connecting. You don't know me and I don't know you. And yes, there's an agenda. But I want you to know why there's an agenda, because I see you and I acknowledge you. And this is why I wanted to connect with you. Do you need help with that? That's powerful. We actually had someone, Shane, just as we're wrapping up, this is the power of this, of asking, studying, and going, because you're going to get responses like this. What did that woman say in response to something we sent her? We sent her our offer message. And what did she say?
Yeah, she just came back and was incredibly grateful. She said, I really appreciate the clarity of your message and your desire to help, right?
Yes.
She saw both those things. Like, it's very clear. So now she knows we're not trying to snowball her. We're not trying to play games. We are straightforward. And then
that's right.
She saw us doing it in this authentic way where it was genuinely, authentically caring about what was most important to her, not extracting value for ourselves, but like giving value to her. So that's encouraging.
That's right. And that's the reason why our response rate hovers right around 30% on an ice cold market. People are not ignoring us.
Yep.
They don't know us.
I'm telling you guys, I remember Amy sitting and looking at all of this for the first time and going, I do not understand this. And I have no idea what is going to happen when I do this. But I know if I don't do this, what is going to happen. I'm going to continue making $1,000 a month on what I'm currently doing. I'm going to continue to see my influence drop. I'm going to continue to see my revenue decline. Like, I guarantee, I know where that pattern is leading. So if you're doubting, like, man, I just don't know. No, don't wait until you understand to go and do it. Your understanding is going to emerge and grow as you go and do. Yeah. So it's like, get in there is what I'm saying. Get in there and go do this. Create that offer message. Start sending it to people who you don't know, and watch what they say if you craft that in the way in which Amy has designed it. They'll say the same things to you as they say to us.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And I have to tell you, I mean, Mark, the soft part of this is just go and study and ask and do it again. Ask, study, go. Ask, study, go. That's the soft part of this, And so I want you guys to be encouraged that if you will stay in action within this system, you will always be that's the beauty. This is what I can guarantee. You want to always be acquiring your client. You want to be the business that had a bigger increase than the $3 million company did last year because they have no idea who their ideal client is and how to duplicate it. Like Melissa and Jerry and Diane and us and so many others in this group that did not bounce from their offer and from their ideal client. They just stayed the course, stayed with the metrics, and they had more of an increase than this $3 million company had. Now they had a small bump up, but they didn't have nearly the increase that you all had last year in the middle of a pandemic. So my point is that that's incredibly, I mean, it just is so freeing. You have no idea. It doesn't mean that you're still not going to be harassed by these ideas that are not real, but now you can put them down. You can control them because you've got proof of concept because you're studying. You're talking to the marketing, you're seeing their real responses, and you're always asking. So you're seeing that you still have value and you're relevant. And each one of you are valuable and relevant, but you're not going to hear that from me, but you'll hear it from the people you're talking to. So I just want to encourage you, ask, study, and go. Always be doing those three, and you will always be acquiring your ideal client consistently. Your revenue will be consistent. You will be able to see an increase month over month and year over year predictably, and you'll be able to just, go to your daughter's
Love it.
nail salon in the middle of a workday morning and not worry about anything. So I hope you guys have a really powerful week. And I just want to thank you so much for your participation and just being here with us. And we will see you on Monday at 12 p.m. Eastern.
Right on. Right on. Bye, everybody.
Oh, gosh. I now I have to figure out how to get us off the Facebook. Bye.
Bye.